This underdog made an impossible comeback versus the reigning champion in a $5,000 tournament. This is the Minecraft Speedrunning Ranked Playoffs, a tournament where the best players race against each other on the same seed at the same time. At the end of each season, 16 players enter into a bracket to win a grand prize of $5,000. In the round of 16, the reigning champion Lowkey faced off against Waluyoshi. Lowkey is known to be a top runner with a former top 3 speedrun and is currently number 1 on the leaderboards for Season 4. On the other hand, Waluyoshi is slightly further down, placing in 56th place last season, but he did get into the final 16 through an open qualifier. In the round of 16, it's a best of 3, and Lowkey was able to take the first seed, even though Waluyoshi kept it really close right up until the end. This means if Waluyoshi loses this seed, he is out of the tournament and has no more chance to win that $5,000 prize pool. So let's dive right into this run. Both players instantly locate the buried treasure, but Waluyoshi finds it just a tiny bit faster and is able to break it around about 2 seconds earlier. But sadly, Waluyoshi makes a few crafting mistakes versus Lowkey's insanely quick craft speed and is able to regain the lead on this seed. Sadly, Waluyoshi has to spend a lot of time grinding this gravel inside his nether portal, even though Lowkey is able to make his first. This allows Lowkey around about a 10-second time advantage while entering into the nether. Now that Waluyoshi is in the nether, he tries to take a slightly riskier play. Now both runners spot the fortress, however, neither of them can see the Bastion. Waluyoshi decides to dig straight through this wall to try and get into it and brute force his way into the Bastion, but Lowkey tries to go up and around on this terrain. Sadly for Lowkey, it doesn't work, as Waluyoshi is able to dig straight into this Bastion. After digging up, Waluyoshi starts his route before Lowkey even enters the Bastion, allowing him around about a 20-second advantage right now. Waluyoshi gathers all of his pigs and gets them into one trading hole at the bottom of this Bastion, and after getting these last few trades, he is ready to leave the Bastion, and he is leaving much before Lowkey. Waluyoshi leaves the Bastion around about 20 seconds ahead of Lowkey, but notice in his inventory, he only has 57 string and 28 glowstone dust. This only gives him 4 beds and 1 anchor. This is only 5 explosives to kill the dragon with, meaning it's going to be super tough for Waluyoshi to go for a 0 cycle. Once Lowkey eventually leaves the Bastion, he spends a few extra pearls to try and get to the fortress, while Waluyoshi is already here and killing these blazes. It's going to give him a huge lead at this point of the run. Lowkey has finally made it to the fortress, but Waluyoshi has 4 rods already, so Lowkey has a lot of catching up to do. However, Waluyoshi is just killing random blazes that are spawning around the fortress, whereas Lowkey is able to spot a spawner really early on, allowing him to get a ton more blazes way faster. And sadly, Waluyoshi's stray blazes are starting to run out, meaning that Waluyoshi needs to go and find this spawner as well. So even though he was ahead on blaze rods, it does mean he has to spend a lot of time trying to find exactly where this spawner is. Waluyoshi eventually finds a spawner, but it has allowed Lowkey to catch up a ton. Waluyoshi's ready to leave the nether though with 6 rods and is able to blind travel out. Around 20 seconds later, Lowkey does the exact same thing, but even though it looks super similar that they've both left the nether and they have both thrown Eyes of Ender to find where the stronghold is, their Eyes of Ender go in different directions. This is because the runners actually traveled out of the nether at different spawners in this fortress. Now, there are 3 strongholds within the first 2,000 blocks of your world, and they're separated by equal angles. However, if you spawn closer to one, your Eye of Ender points to the nearest stronghold. So, for these 2 runners, their nearest strongholds are completely separate. Even though this seems like it doesn't really mean a lot, they're still going to a stronghold. For Waluyoshi, he has to throw pearls straight through lava the entire time. There's no way to get there. But for Lowkey, he's able to run straight across this land and save a ton of time. After being around a minute behind, Lowkey has reduced the deficit down to around about 20 seconds. But Waluyoshi is still in the lead and gets into his stronghold first. Unfortunately though, Waluyoshi starts running around the stronghold and doesn't find where the portal room is straight away. And Lowkey is able to find where the stronghold is as well, completely catching up with Waluyoshi's pace. As soon as Lowkey enters this stronghold, he knows exactly where to go. But luckily for Waluyoshi, he also finds the portal room. These two runners are absolutely neck and neck right now. But remember what I said earlier. Lowkey has 9 explosives because he left the Bastion much later than Waluyoshi did. He was able to get more string and more glowstone dust. This means that Lowkey's zero cycle is much more possible, meaning it's so much more likely for him to be able to take the seed. Furthermore, he also already crafted all of those beds, meaning that he's able to enter the end straight away. But for Waluyoshi, he needs to spend extra time making beds and anchors while standing in the end portal. This means that Lowkey has entered the end around 6 seconds ahead of Waluyoshi. Waluyoshi has his back against the wall. He is out if he loses this seed. He's playing for $5,000 in prize pool against the reigning champion in the MCSR Ranked Playoffs. And if he loses this seed, he is out. Lowkey has entered the end first, and we're going to have to see Waluyoshi pull off something insane to come back from this. He is 6 seconds behind when he enters the end, but he still goes for the risky 5 explosive zero cycle. He pearls up to the top of the tower, but Lowkey is still ahead by around 2 to 3 seconds. He's able to build up faster, but Waluyoshi does something that I have never seen before. He gets his first bed off in time, and his second bed, but in zero cycling, there's a fine line between damage and knockback of the dragon. You need to make sure the dragon stays high enough so it doesn't come and break your bed when you try and place it. But the earlier you explode your beds, the more damage it deals to the dragon. This is a really fine line to overlap, and because Waluyoshi has so few beds, he decides to explode his second bed super early. And this means that the dragon is going to break his bed if he uses this next. So instead, he uses the anchor that he placed, meaning that there's nothing for Waluyoshi to place his beds down onto. If I play this in slow motion, you can see that Waluyoshi places the bed on the side of the anchor. And now that the anchor isn't there anymore, he has nothing to place the beds onto. Except, when he explodes that anchor, it leaves a piece of fire. Waluyoshi uses this to his advantage by placing the bed on the fire hitbox. And by doing so, is able to explode the bed super early and get the kill on the dragon. Just a second or two before Lowkey. And if you see, the dragon is also dead on Lowkey's screen. But Waluyoshi is able, against all odds, to come back in this speedrun and beat the reigning champion, Lowkey. Now, to find out who won this best of 3 and who won the entire tournament, make sure you keep an eye on the MCSR Ranked YouTube channel. All of the VODs are going to be coming out over the next week or so. And if you want to hear how someone tried to cheat their way into this tournament for $5,000, you can click this video right here.